Welcome back, YouTube. Guess what time it is? It is time to upgrade the Ford F150. That's right. We're doing it a little different than my last few stereo upgrades. And I'm going to have some real life data, unlike my old videos. More than just an oscilloscope. So we're going to be using the microphone with pink noise to actually set up everything and make sure we're not clipping and we're getting the best sound possible. I have a bunch of different stuff I've saved up over the years. We got some brand new Kicker RCAs. Not sure if those are really any better. I have these long ones. I might trade these. I might just give this to my buddy for helping me out with the data that I'm going to get you guys. I got the different size terminals depending on the battery. And then I have two different style fuse holders. This is like that mini one that has the hooks on the end. This one, it's just like a huge normal fuse, and you jam it in there, and then underneath this cover is two Allen heads to tighten down the screws onto the fuse legs. Here are the contents of the LCQ1. You get the actual unit. You get a owner's manual, and you get this thing that looks like a guitar pick, but that's actually for turning the knobs. It's a cool little gimmick. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like it. Has the logo on it. This is the system setup we're using. We don't have a sub signal, so basic systems using the factory radio with no sub. The auto mode will give you a sub out, but your front and rear need to be full range, which ours are, so no big deal. So this is how we're going to set it up. So we're going to set some jumpers now, because factory settings are made for people that have subwoofer inputs, which we don't have on this truck. So we need to move the auto mode, which is this one up here. So we had to move that to the bottom. Then this one down here is the sense for the auto on. That's already on by default. And then these two are set to separate and not summed by default. So if you're going to sum your speakers, you move these two jumpers to the right. The amp I'm running to control the whole vehicle is a Phoenix Gold TI 1600.5. Here's the birth certificate. Pause it if you want to take a longer look. For now, I'm going to use the stock sub because I don't know what I want to do, because I'm always using the back for the dog kennel and everything else, so I don't know yet. But for now, I picked this up like 20 bucks or something, so no big deal. I removed the factory sub amplifier from the box just because we're not using it, so I'm going to chuck it out. And right now I'm going to test the voice coils and see if they're 4 or 8 ohms or 2 ohms or what the hell they are. So the voice coils on the factory sub are 2 ohms each. So I'm putting them in series to give me a 4 ohm sub, because the output power on the amp is excessive and I don't feel like popping the sub instantaneously. So we're using the Audio Frog UMI 1. Here's the frequency response with the EQ on 0 and my Pioneer door speakers. So obviously I didn't do this testing with the stock speakers. It'd be interesting to see the overall difference. But this is what we got. Hopefully you can see the axis better now. So go ahead and pause it if you got a big monitor and take a look. The red is the passenger side with the door panel. The black is the driver side with no door panel. So there's obviously some kind of resonant frequencies happening with the door panel on. It's cutting out some of the highs, and it has that weird thing going on at 40 hertz. So we're using a big ass zip tie through that grommet behind the fuse box. cut the nipple off so you can get a hole formed, and then you're going to push through your 4 gauge through that hole. So this is the hardest part, getting the grommet from the back, getting the zip tie fed down this way. Hopefully you have someone with tiny arms, and then you can get it. You're going to tie the wire to the zip tie and then pull it through the bottom. To get this top piece off, you're going to use a panel popper. Pop this grill off, and there's going to be 2 screws inside, and then we can pop this top piece off. Once you use the 2 7mm to get those bolts out the back, you just pull the front up out of these tabs and you're done with that. Now we're going to remove these 2, and then there's clips in the front that just hold it in, so we just got to pull it. Now unplug all the harnesses from the back of the faceplate. Use a 7mm to undo these screws on the side here and unplug it. There's one plug that's a little tricky, this one here. This is going to be up. You're going to push down on this little tab and then pull this forward, and it unlocks it. And this one, you just squeeze in here and wiggle it, it'll come off. And then this is the USB extension one, I guess. Normal, just push this tab and pull it out. Now it's time to pull out the piece that actually sends out the signals, which is this bad boy right here. So use the same socket, take these out, and then we're going to get to the harness in the back. This looks like it's the speaker wire plug right here. So I'm going to go online, grab the schematic. I'll put the schematic in the description, or I'll put a picture at the end of the video. You can go and pause it at the end of the video, and then we can get going. So left front, I hooked it up like a normal radio adapter would be from like the old school cars. So left front is with the white, and the white with the black. Right front is with the gray, gray with the black line. Left rear, green, green with a black line. Right rear, purple, and purple with a black line. For the signals from the radio to the LCQ1, I bought this bundle, 9-wire bundle, so it has 4 speakers worth of signal and a remote. We're not going to use the remote because nowadays cars don't have remote because they run on CAN bus. So the LCQ1 automatically makes a remote wire, so that's no big deal. So I'm going to clip this, and then I'm going to mark on my paperwork what color factory wire went to what color of this wire. Alright, I'm done in here. This big blue bundle is my output. These are the speaker wires coming back from the amp, and they go back in to the door speakers. The reason I do it this way is if I ever sell the truck or it gets totaled or whatever happens, I can just cut these wires and re-crimp them together, and it'll be just like factory, no big deal. Put the screen, the CD player, and the top piece all back together. Pull off this piece, you just pull it straight up. Pull most of the weather stripping from the bottom so we can mess with that and this panel. To get this out, you're going to first pull this tab out of the bottom here, and then you're going to pull this towards the rear, and that'll unclip these 2 clips. I have the wires coming from the radio. You can stick your arm through, and my arm's pretty big and fat, and I got it to fit through over here. And then I went diagonal. Then I lifted the carpet, so the wires are coming from just to the right of the footwell at an angle like this. Right there. I have all the wires in the channel under the zip ties. On the passenger side there is no zip ties. So I'm going to zip tie it up right now. Then I fed up through this side panel, come out the bottom, and then I'm going to tuck these wires under this little back panel thing here so you don't see them, like that blue wire is. That's what it looks like all zip tied up. Now that everything's cleaned up in the driver rear door, we could put all the paneling and the weather stripping back. So this top row here is the fronts. So front left, based on the way I wired it behind the radio, the white with the white gray and the gray black is front left and front right. So then all I do is plug this in here, and that inputs it into the LCQ. Now I have to remove this one, wire this one with the rear left and rear right, and then plug that in. So this is how the inputs are going to look. Nice and clean, just long enough to get it done. Don't mind the sawdust. I'm going to wipe it all down. I might end up painting that. But this is what's going on. The thing that holds the jack, which if you use that factory jack to jack it up, you have problems. Buy a 3-ton jack, take it with you on road trips. Anyways, put some Dynamat down because this was really tingy. I got the ground mounted there. The wires are stretched out right now because I had to do it this way. But looks like we have some power. Alright, it's probably pretty loud, so I'm going to talk loud. This is the volume at 25, and you get a solid voltage of 6.5 volts. If we go to 26, now the voltage is skipping around like a piece of shit. So 25 is your peak. So we're going to set all the voltages based on the output of the LC and the amp and all that at a max volume of 25. So we're here now again after the amp and everything was installed. We're going to use a microphone. We're going to use pink noise on the radio, which you can't see. And we're going to slowly adjust the LCQ to compensate and give me a flat response as much as possible, at least. There we go. This is our first time with no adjustments. Pretty much LCQ 000. It falls off pretty hard at under 60 Hertz. So one of our adjustments should be able to compensate for that. So after all the tweaking, this is as good as I think we're going to get it with the limited tools I have. Here's the end, and when I click this, that's the old one. So the old one had a huge spike up here and it fell off really hard down here. Let's go inside. I'll show you the radio EQ settings, the radio driver settings, and my LCQ settings. There's the EQ settings, 0 all the way down. Occupancy mode, I changed from all seats to driver. It sounds pretty much the same, to me at least. I can't tell the difference between the driver and passenger side front seats. Here are the settings on the LCQ1. We have 25 Hertz turned down a little bit, less than halfway between the minus symbol and the 0. 250 is just left of the 0. 500 we have in between the 0 and the plus. 1K is just about in the middle of 0 to minus. 2K 0 and 8K I pretty much have it on the minus. That's for the front and rear. So using a stock subwoofer is kind of limiting how my sound is, and you can tell by looking at these knobs. So 31.5 Hertz I have like plus 11 dB. 50 Hertz is pretty much minus 5 or so. Same thing with 63, same thing with 80, and same thing with 100. And we had to do this to get a more level sound out of everything in the car. This is the settings I have for the output on the RCAs. For the subwoofer, that I believe was 6 volts. The rear is 5 volts, front is 5 volts. With the stock non-amplified Ford radio. Just for safety measure, I just tape the buttons so they don't move by themselves or by somebody like me moving it around. I don't want to bump something and throw it out of whack. Here's the settings on my amp if you want to check them out. So this is how I have my little amp rack. Is just a little piece of wood glued to another piece of wood, and then I use the tire seat post down here to hold it in. I'm going to push the wires back where they were before I tore this apart. Then the LCQ, and then the stock sub. I had to wrap the whole thing with Dynamat type stuff just to hold it together, because the extra power on this is definitely not being nice to that little plastic box held together with clips.